Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha.
That you were asking about how is it that the sages gave direction even about sex life. Well, the answer is here. The Brahmanas were always engaged in researching knowledge for the society's welfare work, both materially and spiritually, deserve to be the protection of the king in all respects. They deserve the protection of the king because they're always giving knowledge to human society, both materially and spiritually. The idea being that if the material side is properly followed, then the body, which is tadapi adhruvam artadam, it is temporary but still is very valuable because it can, in the human form of life, one can attain the actual mission of life, which is liberation, and beyond that, pure devotion to Krishna. So, for that, the body should be maintained in a healthy position, society should be preserved in an orderly condition, and an ethos should be created that is favorable for cultivation of spiritual life. So all these things, ahara nidra bhaya maithanam samananetat pashubhenama naranam. Humans and animals have in common eating, sleeping, mating and defending. But human is not expected to eat like an animal or sleep like an animal, mate or defend. For eating he should eat food suitable for human beings, not crabs and lobsters and snails and glad and all these kinds of things. And he should eat at regulated times, sleeping also. He should rise early in the morning, regulated. Sex life also regulated, because the idea is sex is for production of children who can be worthy children, who can carry on the society in the best way and who are suitable for self-realization. So, if sex life is conducted in a certain way, then a certain kind of child is born. If there's no regulation or if it's just like John Lennon said, most of the world's population, at least in the Western countries, they're born over a bottle of whiskey on Saturday night. So you can see what kind of children are coming. So even though the Kama Sutra that seems to be simply increasing lust, but it is increasing lust, but in a controlled manner, in a manner that is suitable for producing children, good children. So it's all scientific and it's all given by the sages for the betterment of human society. So the Brahmanas, for this reason, are supposed to be protected by the Ksatriyas, but because they didn't fulfill their duties properly, therefore neither Brahmanas nor the Ksatriyas fulfill their duties properly. So first of all, the Ksatriyas were removed from their position, and then the Shudras who took over, they removed the Brahmanas from their position also. And what I mean to say is that they were kings, and then in India, and then they had democracy, which means the rule of the masses, and the masses are Shudras. And then, so because the kings, they weren't doing their duties properly, otherwise why should they remove them? And then the Brahmanas also not doing their duty properly, so then the Shudras removed them. So there's at least the caste Brahmanas, they can't expect any protection from Kshatriyas, because there are no Kshatriyas. And they can't expect any protection from the Shudras, rather they're being oppressed by them. So the whole society is disordered. We see what is the result of not following the Vedic principles, or even we may say, well, the Brahmanas, they were following principles strictly, but because they made some basic mistake, that instead of thinking that their superior position was meant for service to others, they thought it's meant for being served by others. Brahmana, you see, should serve everyone else. Everyone is supposed to serve everyone else. That letter I was telling about the other day, that someone was writing, or devotees are coming and asking me to help them with sending their emails because I have a computer. It's not proper because I'm second initiated and they're not. It's not proper Vaishnava etiquette. So he's thinking that they should only serve me, I shouldn't serve them. It's not a Vaishnava attitude. One doesn't take Brahman initiation to think himself superior to others. Then it's not. Then you simply become like another edition of the caste Brahmanas in India, who think themselves superior, although they don't have anything. What is the particular superiority? It's simply false pride. Or they may have some superiority. Generally we see the Brahmana caste are intelligent, although not all of them. And sometimes you see people from lower caste, they're also very intelligent. But we could say in general they're somewhat intelligent, but that's also not a reason for one to become proud and to assert his superiority. So, there's no reason to do so except ahankaram, balam, darpam, kama. These are all the qualities that go together. They're stated as being demoniac in the 16th chapter of Gita. Because of false ego, strength, pride, lust, anger. These are the qualities of the demons. So, Kshatriya is supposed to protect real Brahmanas, and he's also supposed to, he's regulating society. Brahmanas may be more theoretical, but Kshatriya is the practical. So he's regulating society. If a Brahmana also is not properly engaged in his duties, then Kshatriya has to see to that also. The Brahmana is receiving respect from society, maintenance from society. But if he's not doing his duty, then the duty of the Kshatriya is to engage him in that. Usually the Brahmin society, they're supposed to, if someone is supposed to be a Brahmana, but he's incorrigibly acting as an a-Brahmana, non-Brahmana, then they should put him out. But if they don't, then the Kshatriya, they should do it. That story is there of the king who killed all the Brahmanas at Tirupati because they were acting like demons actually. Killed all the priests and pujaris. Severe move. But then the worship of the Lord was properly established again. So Kshatriya, he has to be very practical and he has a very responsible duty to fulfill. And he's out in the world and anything can happen at any time. See this? Yudhishthira Maharaj is asking Arjuna, well, did this happen or did that happen or did something else happen? Because anything is possible. A person in a responsible position, they're responsible 24 hours a day. There's no holiday. It's not like in the Catholic Church where they have the priests, they have a holiday. They go to the beach or whatever they do. Or even they do the mass in the morning and then the rest of the day they watch TV, drink, it's their free time. But a real Brahmana, there's no such thing. Although there's a saying that a Brahmana is 100% a Brahmana when he's outside in the Agrahara. Then at home he's only 50% a Brahmana. And when he's alone and no one can see him, then he's completely a Shudra. Did you ever hear that saying? You didn't hear that? No. People say that if there's no one to check you, then you'll just be, you see, outside you'll be acting very nice, but then if no one's checking you, then you'll be a Shudra. So like that. That's why it said a sadhu actually should have no private life. That his life is an open book. Everyone should see. Everyone should see. Not that he's locked away and no one can see what he's doing. So the Kshatriyas and Brahmanas especially are most responsible for maintaining human society. That means they're always responsible. And you never know what's going to happen because life is full of various twists and turns. You can never tell what's going to happen at the next moment. You can never tell what someone's doing. Even you're sitting here very peacefully in the class and you think it's all very nice. I remember once in Bhakti Vedanta Manor in England, we were just sitting in the morning class and all of a sudden some man who had just come and had stayed overnight, I think he'd been there a couple of days, he suddenly got up and started screaming and running towards the deities. Everything was open. So quickly a couple of devotees got up, and just as he was entering the deity room, they got a hold of him. And then they called the hospital and he was taken away for some mental things. But you wouldn't think, sitting here very peacefully listening to Srimad Bhagavatam, you don't know what can happen at any moment. Even you're peacefully sleeping. I twice had the experience of being peacefully sleeping and then waking up and the building is on fire. So, you never know what's going to happen. Anything can happen at any time. So that's life. And one who's responsible, he's always got to act in the proper way. Any time he can make a mistake or do the wrong thing. Sometimes you just out of anger or something, you do the wrong thing. There is that, here we have in the Bhagavatam, this Parikshit Maharaj, he put a dead snake on the body of Shamika Rishi, just on the spur of the moment. He wasn't contemplating, he didn't think, let me go and see Shamika Rishi, put a snake on him, but just, he asked for some water, there was no response, and he saw a dead snake there and just put it up, and as a result he went first to die. It was all unpredictable, it wasn't expected, he had no enemies in this thing. It wasn't thought that such a thing could happen, but it happened, just like that. The newspapers are running on this. You never know what's going to happen. What's the news? What's going to happen? I've just seen the newspaper man delivering the papers. You see big headlines. You can't understand. It's all in Tamil. I can't understand. Even from such a distance, even if it was in English, I couldn't read it. You see big headlines. Something has happened. Someone has said something. And they want to see and understand. Always something has happened, and then how will someone respond? And this is politics. People are always trying to do something or say something to. It's like a game of chess. Or trying to get up on the other person, or putting them in an awkward position so they don't know how to respond. So, responsible position for one in Vedic culture means now you see the politicians are very expert how to react in different ways to uphold their position. But the Kshatriya always had to act in a way that, of course, upholding his position was an important part also. You'll find in there's that Niti Shastra, Chanakya is explaining how the king, he should have his spies, his different ministers, and which kind of people he should trust and which kind of people he shouldn't trust. He also has to see how to maintain his position. But that's also for the sake of preserving Dharma. Otherwise he has no right to have such a position. So he always has to act according to Dharma. And if he's thinking like that, then Dharma Rakshati Rakshataha. Those who protect Dharma, they are protected by Dharma. But because of the tendency to act in a manner that is, because of the tendency to act in a manner that is not proper, at any time we may do something wrong. Arjuna asked the same thing in Bhagavad Gita. That, what is it? Kena yukta yam papam charati purusham aniccham api vasham paladi vaniyodhita. But what is it? Why is it that sometimes we do things wrong and we don't want to? As if we're forced to. Then Krishna replied, Kama isha, Krodha isha, Rajaguna Siddha. That this is the influence of lust and anger produced from the mode of passion. So even though we may be trying to act in a proper way. At any time we may do something wrong, something that we shouldn't do. Now first of all, one should know what is the proper way to act and what isn't. Otherwise there's no question of acting properly. That Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, after describing the demons, he summarizes their whole position as they don't act according to Shastra. They act against Shastra. Then, tasmat shastra pranamante, karya karya vinasita, gyata shastra pranamante, karyam karma evahasa. Krishna says that one should act according to Shastra, but you should know what is in Shastra. Otherwise, how can you act according to Shastra? So you have to act according to Shastra. One has to know. One has to be trained. One has to know. It's not like in the modern age that, someone's a peanut farmer or a B-rated movie actor, and then they get voted and they become the President of the United States. They're not trained in Dharma, they're not trained in leadership. There's no such training with the Ksatriyas. They're trained from an early age. Intensive training. Brahmanas also. Intensive training. Even the Vaishyas, the young boys used to see 8 years old in the shop. They're dealing with all the customers, bargaining with them. I haven't seen like this right now. I used to see in Calcutta, Bora Bazaar, the Marwaris, their sons. They weren't going to business school. Now they all go to business school and all this kind of thing. They were trained on the job, in the shop. So, but especially Brahmanas, Ksatriyas, intensive training from a young age, for many years, to study theoretical knowledge and practical knowledge, how to apply that. Still, even here, Yudhishthira has some suspicion that even such a great person as Arjuna, he's acted improperly. So it's possible. It's possible for anyone. No one can actually exactly what is the proper thing to do. It's very difficult to say because one person may, whatever you do, you can't tell what the result will be. You can never tell. And even if you do it, someone may say, yes, that was proper, and someone may say, no, that is improper. There may be different opinions about what is the desired goal and how to attain it. There may be different opinions. So, therefore, one should always act under the guidance of those who are very expert in understanding the meaning of Shastra. This is one very important reason why we accept the Acharyas, and why the Acharyas themselves, who are extremely learned in Shastra, they also teach from Shastra that you cannot understand simply by learning. One cannot understand simply by learning. Still, one is supposed to learn. Unless you learn, how can you know what to do and what is the goal of life? But still, the Acharyas teach that you can't know simply by learning. Even you should be learned, but ultimately one has to accept the path of the Acharyas. Acharya mata jay, she mata sha. Talange chale sheto asha. Chaitanya Charitamrita, Prabhupada quotes that as the opinion of the Acharya, that is the essence. Jay lange chale jave sheto asha. Those who transgress the orders of the Acharya or have a different opinion, then they're simply useless. So, how to know what to do, what not to do? One has to follow the Acharya. Why people so much appreciate Prabhupada? Because he wasn't like a university professor just teaching some academic knowledge in the university, but he practically taught people how to apply Krishna consciousness in their lives. There's a difference. Just like you may give a class. There's no such thing. You can give a class on how to milk a cow. But then if you take someone and you do it, and then you say, here, you do it like this, and you show them, Then they can learn. You can't learn how to milk a cow in a classroom. You have to practically do it, and someone will show you, and then, you know what to do if the cow's kicking, and how to tie them up, and all the little things you can know. First you let the calf sat a bit, and you have to pull away. That's why you see cowherd men are quite strong. Get the calves quite insistent that we should drink all the milk. So you have to be taught practically, on the job. And one who can teach you, then you can get the milk. Otherwise you don't get the nectar, you don't get the milk. If it's only theoretical. That's why you see there's some mundane scholars they're criticizing Prabhupada, and why should we care for them? What do they know? What's the use? If someone says, well, I have a better theory on how to milk a cow, come to my classroom. Just like you put your hand in fire, it acts. Whether you know or not. So, just like if you put the money in the slot machine and you pull it, you get whatever it is, a packet of sweets or whatever. You don't have to. You see, you may think, well, I learned how the slot machine was invented and how the mechanism works. It's not required. So you just have to put the money in and get it out. So Prabhupada taught what we needed to know. And there's unlimited learning. Someone may say, you see, now I've learned so many things from someone else, but well, what have you learned? You've learned something. But then you see someone here will be specializing in one area of knowledge, even within Vaishnavism. That someone may be very expert in knowing the different siddhantas of the different sampradayas. Someone else may be more expert in knowing the rasa vichar of the Gauriya Vaishnava Sampradaya, and someone else may be more expert in knowing the history of the Sampradaya, and someone else may be more expert in understanding the esoteric meaning of mantras. There's so many different things. Someone may be more expert. You may know the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Leela very intimately, but you can't know everything. So it's ridiculous to say that, well, Prabhupada didn't teach us everything, because no one teaches everything. It's not possible to teach everything. So, practical Acharya teaches what needs to be known. And on top of that, if you have some special interest, you can learn this, that, and the other. But it's not possible to teach everything. Prabhupada wasn't so foolish to attempt it. But he gave us everything. He gave us the process to attain Krishna. He gave us huge volumes of books, authoritative, definitive books on Krishna consciousness. So even if you think you know everything in Prabhupada's books, which is unlikely that anyone can know, how can you remember everything? But even if you think you know, you think you're an expert, you can read so many other things also that are now available. But the definitive understanding of Krishna consciousness is in Prabhupada's books. That's why we say founder Acharya. Because he gave Krishna practically did the right thing at the right time, all the time. Didn't make mistakes. Or even if someone thinks he made a mistake, that is their mistake. Because they have no position to judge. Prabhupada. And no anyone, why should they? I can't understand. What is this mentality? They want to find mistakes. Such a wicked mentality. So you're drowning and someone comes and saves you and say, well, actually, you should learn how to swim better. And when you were saving me, you wrenched my arm, now I have a pain in my arm. Or, you see, you saved me when I was drowning, but actually there are many better swimmers than you. So, who do you think you are? Or, actually you didn't save me. I was only pretending to drown. So there are so many, like this, there are so many, they're not grateful to Prabhupada. And they're saying, someone is better, this is better, that is better. He didn't teach that Prabhupada. Such rascals, every one of them. And they think they're so damn intelligent. So they made a very big mistake. How is it possible Krishna is going to be pleased with them? Yasya prasadad bhagavat prasado. Yasya prasadad. Delivering the ocean of mercy. Krishna is the ocean of mercy, so Prabhupada is delivering that. But if you don't want to accept, if you don't want to accept that mercy, if you think, well, actually he doesn't really have the mercy, and you don't get it, that's it. Nagati kato api, even if you may be doing so many other things, you may be very austere, superficially learned, so many things, but if you insult the Acharya, then you're finished. No mercy. So Yudhishthira is asking Arjuna, did you do something wrong? Did you mistreat people? You should not have been mistreated. Did you act wrongly? He was thinking in various ways he could have acted wrongly. Because he knows that even if you're right, even if you do things right, all the time, if you do something wrong, then it has a wrong effect. It's not that, well, I avoided putting my hand in fire for the last 50 years, so now I'll put it in, and then, now I shouldn't go, it'll burn. Someone may be an expert electrician and he's working, he knows what to do so he doesn't get electrocuted, but in 1 second he's inattentive and he's dead. He gets electrocuted. So it's like that. You may be doing everything right, but if you do something wrong, the effect is there. Of course, Krishna says, Api chet sudara acharo bhajate mamanam Ksatriyas.